Hello, friends, and good morning. Good morning, good morning, good morning to you. Let me just click on this over here. Good morning, and welcome to another episode of PB Reads the Bible. I'm PB, Pastor Brian, pastor here at Christ United Methodist Church, and you are tuning in for another episode of PB Reads the Bible. And we are on episode 14 on our journey through the book of Judges. Hang on a sec. Wasn't quite comfortable at that height. I was having an issue. I was sliding off my chair. Yeah, we're on episode 14 on our journey through the book of Judges, which means we are on chapter 14 of the book of Judges. Doesn't always match up, but it is matching up on this particular book. It's a relatively short chapter, but we've got some stuff to talk about in it. And it is part of the story of Samson, which we started yesterday. So if you missed that, stay with us today, and you can always go back and watch the video from episode 13. Of course, you can go back and watch all of the videos dating back to December of 2020 when we first started this with the book of Luke. But what I would ask right now, and a lot of you are going to know this because you've been doing this for a while with us, go ahead and check in. Let me know you're watching, say good morning and all that kind of stuff. Could be to me, could be to each other, could be both, whatever. Just to let us know you're there. I like to know who it is. Put a name and a face to a number, because we're not just numbers, but that's all that Facebook gives me. So please go ahead and do that. Even if you're not watching live, whenever it is you're watching, go ahead and check in. Let us know. And if you have questions or comments, you can put those in the stream, or you can send me a text. You can also send me a text for your check-in, at least if you're doing it live, to let me know that you're watching. 570-351-1619 is the cell number. So when you see me looking to my left, I'm trying to look on Facebook and see what's going on there, what you might be saying or asking. And if I look to my right, it's because I'm checking out my cell phone to see why it vibrated and if somebody's trying to ask a question on there. So I do see some folks joining us this morning. Good morning, John. Good morning, Cheryl. Hi, Marilyn. Good to have you folks with us this morning. Thursday, March 3rd, 3-3. So we'll make a couple announcements first while we're expecting others. I think others might be joining us, but if not, that's okay. I just want to make my announcements. It is Thursday, so we'll be pausing our readings for a couple days. My Sabbath is tomorrow, and my Sue day is Saturday. Although my Sabbath still involves doing some work, because I'm doing a continuing ed thing in the afternoon, and we have a finance team meeting tomorrow night. So Sunday will be, of course, our worship experiences at 8:15 and 10:45. Both are in person. Only the 10:45 is live streamed. So you're welcome to join us in person in the sanctuary for either of those worship experiences. But if you're more comfortable being at home, or if you're a little too far away, or whatever the case is, go ahead and join us live stream at 10:45, Facebook, YouTube, or our website. And I was looking at the numbers yesterday. We're getting our views on YouTube are going up, which is always cool. Good morning, Joe. So that's cool. We're seeing our numbers go up on YouTube. Facebook is staying about the same, but YouTube's going up, so that's interesting. And our in-person attendance, I think, is going up. So it's all good. It's all good. But what will worship be about? Well, last night for our Ash Wednesday service, we began our next worship series, which is called A Disciple's Path. And so if you were unable to join us last night, either in person or through the live stream, I encourage you to watch the video from last night's worship to get caught up as we explained what a disciple is, and what a disciple's path is, and all kind of important stuff about it. And this Sunday we'll begin looking at the 5 areas of ministry and life that we will be using to help each other be guided along a path and grow deeper in our discipleship. The 5 areas are based around the 5 points of the vows of the United Methodist of membership. 5 points of the vow of membership: prayers, presence, gifts, service, and witness. So this week we will once again be talking about prayer. I promise it will be different than what we were doing with the Lord's Prayer over the last few weeks. Excuse me. Join us, won't you, for this journey of discipleship. Okay, so we're going to look at chapter 14. Just as a little reminder, keep these things fresh in your mind as we're going through here, because it is important stuff to understand the story of Samson and to understand why he was a failure as a judge. That's probably shocking to you, because we always think of Samson as this glorious hero, and in some ways he was, but he was a failure as a judge. He is the last of the judges, and he is almost the exact opposite of the first judge, and we'll see some various reasons why. We're going to see some various reasons why. Having read chapter 13 and this pronouncement from the angel and everything that took place, we know, we know Samson is born at the end of it, and there's so much promise. Excuse me a sec. There's so much promise in the announcement and all that, because it says that God has chosen him to, and he will begin to deliver Israel from the Philistines. So there's promise, but there's also warning, or sort of a lack of hope. The author almost indicates that God doesn't even put a whole lot of hope in Samson, but we've got this hope that he's going to do some good, that he's going to be a judge and deliver at least somewhat the people of Israel from the Philistines. And we've got this promise he's going to be this Nazarite, selected and set apart. So this sounds great. We expect then, as soon as he comes of age, which you expect the author to have that as the next point, with him becoming of age, which he does, and you expect him to do great things right off the bat as far as delivering Israel. Remembering the judges of the past, the deliverers of the past, the first stories. They're the better judges, the greater judges. We start with judges who are able to unite, if not all the tribes of Israel, then a number of the tribes of Israel, and use them for the deliverance of the people, and provide a lasting period of rest. As we progress through the judges and we get to the less and less effective ones, their ability to unite the tribes, or to even try to use the tribes, diminishes. And with that also diminishes their effectiveness. So where's Samson going to be in that line? Does he unite any of the tribes? Is he able to get help? What happens? We also see that the early judges are so concerned with the deliverance of Israel, and we get to some of the other judges, and they become more and more interested with their own concerns, building up their families, providing things, becoming wealthy, and vengeance upon slights and various things in which they feel wrong. So these are the things to remember as we begin to look at Samson as an adult, as he begins his period as a judge. Once Samson went down to Timnah, and at Timnah he saw a Philistine woman. Pause. If you went through the study with Genesis with me, you're probably going to remember what I'm going to say about Timnah. Timnah, although it does depend on what time of year he went there, but Timnah is kind of like Las Vegas. It's if not quite, but darn close to Sin City, especially during the time of sheep shearing. So when you look back in Genesis and you're reading about the story about Judah and Tamar and his daughter-in-law, Timnah, it uses that expression. They went to Timnah to shear the sheep, and it's almost a euphemism, but so Timnah is kind of like Las Vegas. What happens there stays there, but it's Sin City, and he saw a Philistine woman. It's important. Then he came up and told his father and mother, I saw a Philistine woman at Timnah. Now get her for me as a wife, as my wife. But his father and mother said to him, is there not a woman among your kin or among all your people that you must go to take a wife from the uncircumcised Philistines? Pause, because that violates the covenant. That violates one of the covenants that in particular that it's in the Old Testament, and not to do that, because why? We're told even earlier in Judges, that leads to the apostasy, that leads to the people being led away to the false gods. So they don't want that, and they don't want that to happen. But Samson, stubborn, said to his father, get her for me because she pleases me. Pause, going to pause there, because in Hebrew, the literal, what is translated because she pleases me, literally means she is right in my eyes. She is right in my eyes. Let that sink in. Don't forget that line. She is right in my eyes. His father and mother did not know that this was from Yahweh, for he was seeking a pretext to act against the Philistines. At that time, the Philistines had dominion over Israel. Pause. Whoa. So God is, the author is telling us that God is spurring Samson to violate God's own covenant and God's own law for the purpose of trying to deliver Israel from the Philistines, to have a pretext to work with. This is unusual, and Samson's parents don't see it. They don't know. They just think it's wrong, but they're going to go ahead along with it anyway. Before we go any further, remember from our conversation yesterday, or if you don't, I'm just going to tell you again anyway, the 3 points to the Nazirite vow are, and specifically, 2 of them specifically for Samson, but we would presume the third is important also. To avoid consumption of wine, strong drink, or anything from the grapevine, to not come in contact with the corpse or eat impure things because of corpse, unclean things. Or 3, cut your hair. Those are the 3 points of the Nazirite vow. Those are the 3 important things. Okay. Then Samson went down. So verse 5. Then Samson went down with his father and mother to Timnah. When he came to the vineyards of Timnah, boom, pause. I know it's in the middle of a sentence, but pause. Red flag. Red flag. They're vineyards of Timnah, and he's there. That's a red flag warning. Continuing, suddenly a young lion roared at him. The spirit of Yahweh rushed on him, and he tore the lion apart barehanded as one might tear apart a kid. But he did not tell his father or his mother what he had done. Pause. Now that's borderline because of this lion, that he killed it, and therefore would come in contact with it because he killed it with his bare hands. Then he went down and talked with the woman, and she pleased Samson. After a while, he returned to marry her, and he turned aside to see the carcass of the lion, and there was a swarm of bees in the body of the lion and honey. Pause. So I should have said this. After a while, he returned to marry her. So he went home. They had to make all the arrangements and stuff, and now they're on their way back. So a period of time has elapsed, however long. So the carcass has been lying there for a while. We can presume the stench and flies and stuff like that, but also bees, also the bees that have made a home there, swarmed, and have created honey in the carcass. He scraped it out into his hands and went on eating as he went. When he came to his father and mother, he gave some to them, and they ate it. But he did not tell them that he had taken the honey from the carcass of the lion. Pause. Since the honey was in the carcass of the lion, although honey itself is a clean food, it becomes unclean, and he should not have been eating it because he came in contact with a carcass, or with food that came in contact with a carcass. So he has broken one of the Nazirite vows. Continuing, his father went down to the woman, and Samson made a feast there as the young men were accustomed to. Pause. The word used for feast and translated feast has a different context, or a different connotation than merely a feast of food. We're talking a wine feast, a drunken feast, a drunken feast. So he is violating second of his Nazirite vows. When the people saw him, they brought 30 companions to be with him, kind of like brides, like groomsmen. Samson said to them, "Let me now put a riddle to you. If you can explain it to me within the 7 days of the feast and find it out, then I will give you 30 linen garments and 30 festal garments. But if you cannot explain it to me, then you shall give me 30 linen garments and 30 festal garments." So they said to him, "Ask your riddle, let us hear it." He said to them, "Out of the eater came something to eat. Out of the strong came something sweet." But for 3 days, they could not explain the riddle. On the 4th day, they said to Samson's wife, "Coax your husband to explain the riddle to us, or we will burn you and your father's house with fire. Have you invited us here to impoverish us?" So Samson's wife wept before him, saying, "You hate me. You do not really love me. You have asked a riddle of my people, but you have not explained it to me." He said to her, "Look, I have not told my father or my mother. Why should I tell you?" She wept before him the 7 days that their feast lasted. And because she nagged him, on the 7th day he told her. Then she explained the riddle to her people. The men of the town said to him on the 7th day before the sun went down, "What is sweeter than honey? What is stronger than a lion?" And he said to them, "If you had not plowed with my heifer, you would not have found out my riddle." Then the Spirit of Yahweh rushed on him, and he went down to Ashkelon. He killed 30 men of the town, took their spoil, and gave the festal garments to those who had explained the riddle. In hot anger, he went back to his father's house, and Samson's wife was given to his companion, who had been his best man. Pause. End of chapter. End of chapter. So he tells a riddle. Now this riddle, it has its answer right there. That's a surface level, though. Some biblical scholars say, yeah, that's one answer to the riddle. but it might also have a deeper answer. It might also have a deeper answer, the answer of love. For what is sweeter than love and what is stronger than love? From something very strong comes something very sweet. In particular, some of the scholars who proclaim that say the author is speaking about God's love for Israel, and that it is strong and sweet beyond belief in both measures. We some scholars also point to Samson in this scene, even though he fails in so many ways, that he also, to a small extent, mirrors the good part about Samson, we might say, is his apparent love. It's also his weakness, some would say, but that it mirrors God, that God's love, that Samson's love for this woman, for his first bride, mirrors God's love for Israel. And when she begs him and nags him, we might say, he can't help but be moved to respond in the same way that God is moved to respond, not because of nagging, but because of love. The author says that Samson is moved by nagging, but it's nagging plus love. He truly, it would seem that he truly loves this woman, and is moved by her. But again, his love is also his weak point, so to speak. Also its weak point, so to speak. So that's it for chapter 14. And that's it for today. We will, and it's not just for today, but for the weekend. So we'll be back at it on Monday morning with chapter 15. Let me just triple check my calendar. I don't think I have anything on Monday morning that's going to interrupt me. Nope. The following week, I have a couple days that are going to be an issue. But Monday, the 7th, we will be back live at 9 o'clock, and we will be looking at chapter 15. On Monday. So, my friends, I do pray that this has been beneficial to you, that God has spoken to you in some way, that you have learned something or relearned something. And as you go about your days, not just today, but every day, keep those eyes and ears, physical and spiritual, open for what our living, active, loving God is doing in your life and in the lives of those around you. When you see it, when you hear it, say, "Thank you, Papa," and then tell somebody about it. Be blessed, my friends. Be blessed.